wabarakatuh, everyone.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are going to start the session shortly. We are just waiting, the participant is coming in the session because it's morning, I think, and Friday also. Okay, so I think we should start right now because it's already 10:06. Because today is Friday, we don't have much time even. So while we are starting, I think people will join later on, inshallah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya wal mursalin wal alayhi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good morning to the honorable speakers for today's session, namely Associate Professor Dr. Nurul Ain bint Muhammad Dawood, Associate Professor Dr. Abbas Abdul Razak, Brother Khan Muhammad Sada, Brother Muhammad Amir bin Rustam, all lecturers of IAUM, CPS staffs, PGSS members in Gombak and Kwantan, organizing committees, and all postgraduate students. Welcome to the webinar on intercultural engagement and its role in the well-being of postgraduate students. This program is organized by the Center for Postgraduate Studies, CPS, and Postgraduate Student Society, PGSS, in collaboration with the Office of Deputy Rector of the Student Development and Community Engagement. My name is Muhammad Alumgir Hussain. I am a member of PGSS Gombak, and I am delighted to be your master of ceremony for today's event. To gain the blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, let us commence today's ceremony with Ummul Kitab Al-Fatiha. Okay, alhamdulillah. Before jumping into the main session, I would like to brief in shortly of our today's event. As you know, today we have 4 speakers. Alhamdulillah, 4 honorable speakers today we have with us. So, because today is Friday and we don't have much time, I think our duration is 10 to 12. So we have only 2 hours. So that's why we decided like each speaker will get 20 minutes for their speech and rest 5 to 7 minutes for their Q&A session. So what we'll do, so when the one speaker will finish his or her speech, and then immediately after, if we have any Q&A, we will directly go to that Q&A, and after that we will go to the second speaker and just following until 4. So okay, but from this, I think we have the people are joining in. We have almost 20 near about. So I would like to request all the participants. So if you have any questions to our honorable speakers related to this event, related to this our today's topic, so please feel free to ask through chat box. I will try to address it while our speaker is finished their speech, inshallah. Without a further ado, let's continue with the main agenda. As I mentioned earlier, the topic for today's webinar is intercultural engagement and its role in the well-being of postgraduate students. So before jumping into the sharing session, as a moderator, I would like to introduce our first honorable speaker, Associate Professor Dr. Nurul Ain bint Muhammad Daud, in briefly. Associate Professor Nurul Ain Muhammad Daud is a senior lecturer in the Department of Psychology and Counseling, Faculty of Human Development, Sultan Idris University of Education. She obtained a bachelor degrees from IRKH and Human Sciences from the International Islamic University of Malaysia, and Master of Education, uh, uh, Education, Guidance and Counseling from the University of Malaya, and a PhD Multicultural Counseling Education from the University of Bristol, and which is situated in United Kingdom. She has almost 17 years of experience as a lecturer at UPSI. Her main focus is on the field of multicultural counseling, qualitative methodology, as well as spiritual aspects in counseling. She is also the coordinator of the Wellness Center, which provides wellness support services to the students, staffs, and the community, as well as volunteer activities. She is also actively involved as a speaker in various talks and webinars on multicultural counseling and education at national and international levels. So with that, I would like to invite Associate Professor Dr. Nurul Ain bint Muhammad Daud to share her speech on the topic, Understanding the Intercultural Competence in the Life of Postgraduate Students. Please welcome, Doctor. I think in the meantime, I'm going to share your slides. Thank you, Doctor.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Moderator, Muhammad Alamgir. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh, and a very good morning to all, as well as to the panelists for today, who is also, I'm sure, will be talking about the intercultural engagement in the life of postgraduates. So I would like to extend my appreciation to the Center for Postgraduate Studies, International Islamic University, for inviting me to this session. I was also the alumni of this university. It's been like 20 years that I left the university, but you know, the memories in the university is still, linger in my mind, and I really cherish my study in IIUM, and I'm sure all of you are grateful being in this university as far as I do. Yeah. Also, my appreciation goes to the staff of the postgraduate, as well as to the students, postgraduate students. So the topic for today webinar is Understanding the Intercultural Competence in the Life of Postgraduates. And I'm sure this topic is very important and relevant because we are facing 21st century, we are facing the globalization, where we need to have these attributes, in order to put ourselves, in these quite challenging times. Yeah. Okay. So the overview. Next slide, please. The overview of my presentation would be, I will be talking about intercultural competence, as well as the components of intercultural competence, and what are the activities of intercultural activities for postgraduates for them to interact and to mingle around. And I finish up with the conclusion because I'm given 20 minutes, to discuss the elements. Okay, so I will start off with the analogy of culture. Next, please. I will start off with the picture of the iceberg. Okay, so the analogy of culture is, similar as the structure of the iceberg, where we can see, the structure of the iceberg is the ice is. We can see that the structure is quite hard, yeah, and the famous film connected to the iceberg is Titanic. Okay, I'm sure all of us watched Titanic before, and the iceberg can demolish, the structure of the huge ship at that time during in the year 1912. So what I would like to say is the analogy of culture is similar to the iceberg, whereby we can see the observable things that we can see is only the tip of the iceberg. And without us realizing that the large portion is beneath the ocean, and the large portion can actually demolish a huge ship, meaning that in our life, in our culture, it can be divided into two: the things that we can observe, the part that we can observe, and actually the larger portion of our culture is considered the essential one. So we can say that the deep culture plays an important role in our life, and in order for us to understand the culture of the person, there is no other way than that we need to interact. Yeah, we need to immerse in the culture in order for us to understand, yeah, the deep culture of the human beings. So I'm sure as postgraduate students, although you have been before, yeah, in other university, but every university has its own philosophy. Yeah, every individual has his own culture, and there is no other way than we need to immerse in that culture in order to understand the deep culture of the individual, the personality, how the person interact, yeah, how the person communicates, the notion of the individual, their worldviews, yeah, the attitudes towards life, towards what we can see that whether the individual can cooperate or compete with one another, we can only understand when we interact and we immerse with the individual. So although we can read about the institution, for example, you read about IIUM, you read about the history of IIUM itself, but there is actually a huge difference, when you immerse yourself in this university, you will get to know more about the philosophy of the university, about the mission and vision of the university. There is none other way than, you interact yourself in a deeper culture of the university. So, meaning to say that when you see individual, you can only see the overt appearance of the individual, and there is no other way to know the deep culture of the individual by interacting and immersing with them or with the institution. Okay, so this is the analogy of culture, with the iceberg that we need to put forward in the understanding, you know, of culture of the individual as well as the culture of the institutions. Okay, so next. So I would like also to quote this surah, which is quite famous in terms of the human beings, yeah, the differences in human beings, yeah. Surah Al-Hujurat, verse 49. Ya ayyuhallazina amanu inna khalaqnakum min dzakarin wa unsa wa ja'alnakum syu'uban wa qabaila lita'arafu inna akramakum indallahi atqakum. So God has created us from female and male and make us tribes and into nation and tribe for us to ta'aruf, yeah, for us to interact with one another, for us to know one another. And the most superiority and excellent is those who have got consciousness, meaning that we are created in equal way in the sight of Allah, irrespective of our color, our race, or nationality. There's reasons, you know, behind God creation. And the only way is to know ourselves, for enable us to understand others, to understand the differences between human beings, so as we need to appreciate our creation and also the differences between all of us. So only that we can only appreciate the creation of Allah Himself. Yeah. So this surah provides us with a great lesson that there is we cannot say that only certain color is supremacy over other colors, because we are created equally, and the things that differentiate us is only taqwa. Yeah, there's a big things when we understand the real understanding of taqwa, okay, where we cannot put ourselves superior than others. When we have, you know, knowledge of ourselves and knowledge of others, only then it can put us in a great consciousness and in a God consciousness towards one another. Okay, so I think this surah is really provide us with a great lesson for us to appreciate others and provide us guidance, you know, to understand others and also to treat others in an equal manner, right? So I would like to introduce you to the multicultural diversity, because culture is not only considered or confined to race, gender, or ethnicity. We need to understand culture in a diverse way, and I put forward respectful model, which is considered an acronym, you know, for culture. We need to understand diversity that consists of religion, economic status, sexual orientation, psychological maturity, ethnic group, chronological challenges in our life, the trauma that we have, family history also shape our culture. We have also unique physical characteristic, and also we come from different location and we speak different languages. So that's all, you know, shape our diversity in life, and there is no other way than, you know, to understand the uniqueness of the individual. There is no other way, only through interaction, you know, with others. So using respectful model, we can say that culture is so diverse, and we need to expand our paradigm of thinking, of understanding culture, that that considers a huge element, in our life. All right. So these are the elements of culture. And okay, next slide, please. So along the way, when you mingle with your friends, with your supervisors, we are exposed to a different kind of generation. Um, there are many generations that we need to consider in our life. There are traditionalists, baby boomers, Generation X, millennials, or Z generations. And perhaps, when you are in a supervision process, you will face your supervisors who considered as traditionalists, or might be your supervisors consists of Generation Z. So they must be like exposed to heavily exposed to the technological savvy. For example, your supervisor is more interested in social networking. Maybe he or she prefers to read your proposal using email, or might be you are considered yourself as traditionalist. You need to read or you need to write your proposal and hand over using face-to-face. So along the way, when you interact, for example, with your supervisors, there must be a generational difference that you need to be aware of, right? So these are the things, that we need to consider when you face yourself. I mean, like in this diversity of the culture. Okay, and along the way also, you need to be aware that that your background might be consist of high context culture or low context culture. High context culture means that your life is much heavily influenced by people around you. Or you might consider yourself a low context culture, whereby the low context culture is your orientation is much more on the individualistic kind of culture. So these kind of interaction might impact you in your social interaction. For example, you are consider yourself as a straightforward kind of person, whereby your supervisor is kind of, have flowery language or speak in different language. And meaning that your supervisor is not a straightforward kind of person, or vice versa. So these actually shape how you interact, or might be your friends. Your friend is kind of collectivistic kind of culture, and you yourself from the individualism culture. The way you speak is quite explicit. You have such explicit kind of communication. So it might contradict the way you interact with other people. So this kind of thing will give impact on the way your working ethic, the way you're task oriented and everything. And so whether you are low context or high context culture, the intercultural communication comes into play. The way you adapt, the way you interact with other people, consider important, for you to mingle around, for you to interact. So intercultural communication, we come to the definition of intercultural communication. So what is the meaning of intercultural communications is all about? Okay, so can you go to the next slide, please? So intercultural competence, is a combination of attitudes, knowledge, skills, and action. So in order for you to be competent in the cultural, to have intercultural competence, you need to understand yourself first. Yeah, understand your weaknesses, understand your strength, understand your biases towards another. Okay, when you understand your strength, for example, you can use the platform in order to unleash your potential. And when you understand your weaknesses, also, for example, you try to find the avenue, for you to shape your potential. For example, if you are considered yourself as a shy person or less confident person, you try to find the avenue or the platform, to shine yourself. For example, to become a moderator like Alamgir and involve yourself actively in lots of conferences or webinars. And I'm sure in IIUM itself, the tradition of having webinars and talk is really, I think, need to be applauded, because that's the characteristic of IIUM itself as a garden of knowledge and virtue is really, I think, really engaging. So it's up to the postgraduate students, to take up the challenge. It's a choice for you whether you want to involve in activities that serve for you or not. It will define you whether your journey is considered a lonely journey or not, because you yourself can define the journey that you have during your postgraduate studies. That's how I believe. Yeah. So the intercultural competence consists of attitude, knowledge, skills, and action. So it begins with knowing yourself, yeah, understand yourself, your capacity, your capability, in order for you to unleash your potential and set yourself in the platform, to interact with others, to know others, and using various of platform, to shine yourself in this arena. So in this way, intercultural competence, according to Dimitrov, in academic context, may include the ability to present, research, or facilitate learning across cultures, speak with confidence to a variety of audiences, explain complex concepts. So it's all involve variety of activities that you can involve in, to present yourself, because postgraduate studies is not only involve seeking the knowledge, seeking the tacit knowledge, but also having yourself, present yourself to give contributions, to others in a very diverse way. So intercultural competence is regarded as the most important graduate attributes, in the 21st century. This is the requirement needed by the employers, I think needed by university as well, to produce the graduates who can, uphold the name of the university. So having this can put you in another, level in the internationalization process. Okay, so in order for you to bring yourself, to the arena, okay, there are many activities, intercultural activities for postgraduates that you can involve in. For example, involve yourself in networking, in workshop and training courses, during the conferences and seminars, in order to understand the culture. In order to understand the culture, the Malaysian culture, the IIUM culture, and the culture of your supervisors, might be your supervisors love to see you in a mamak stalls, right? And you cannot find mamak stalls in your origin countries, is it? Okay, so these are the only way for you, to understand how the Malaysian culture look like, the research culture in IIUM, for example, specifically, only by immersing in the networking, the workshop. And I'm sure that IIUM provide you with diverse workshop and training courses. For example, the technical courses for you to adapt with the postgraduate studies, or maybe the courses that related to your emotional coping process. Yeah. So I believe that you will grab all the opportunities given by the university for you to adapt well to become an intercultural individual that that can um, that can function very well when you step your ladder in a career in the future. This is how I believe the intercultural activities that serve for you, to mingle around, yeah. And I still remember during my time in IIUM, as well as in during my postgraduate studies, yeah, we interact. We are actively interacted with other international students, with other countries, in order to understand their personality, their way of life, interact with the supervisors, and we need to exercise openness and understandings towards others' differences. So I believe that intercultural competence, can is essential, yeah, for postgraduates to be successful in future, as it affect our life and how we perceive others. And I'm sure the professional developments, need to be more explicit, intentional, and sustainable to ensure that graduate supervisors and supervisees can be successful, and this culture can be fostered over time. So I think that's all my sharing for today, and I hope that all of us can be can actively take our part in each of the activities served by the university in order for us to be intercultural individuals. Okay, with that, thank you very much for your attention and for your understanding. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nurul Ain Bint Muhammad Noor, for your insightful sharing, which is cultural competence. So as I mentioned, for the Center for Postgraduate Students and Postgraduate Student Society, PGS, we together, we bring lots of programs like this, and we are encouraging our all postgraduate and undergraduate students to participate in those programs. So for that reason, we are arranging this program. And this December month is the Ummatic month of IIUM, and this month we will have so many others program too, like cultural integrations. So where we invite few countries to perform their culture. So this kind of program we usually arrange for the postgraduate students. So inshallah, I believe our all postgraduate students will participate those program, and they will shine themselves everywhere. And thank you so much, Doctor. So now I would like to open the floor for Q&A session, for particularly for Dr. Nurul Ain Binti Muhammad So if you have any questions, you can write down through chat box or just unmute yourself and ask a question to the doctor. So as because we don't have much time, maybe we can take one or two questions. Is there anyone? So what doctor says, like, just unmute yourself and speaks. It's an experience. Any kind of questions you can ask. Hey, doctor, I think I have I got one questions through chat box. So I think I can ask you that one. So one of our brother, he asks, like, can you please share the intercultural engagement and its value from Islamic point of view?
Okay, intercultural engagement in Islamic point of view. Well, I believe that Islam also teach us, to respect each other, right? Regardless of religion, regardless of racial groups. So the first thing that Islam taught us is, on how to respect each other. And we can see in the life of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam also respect other tribes, other religions, and we cannot force others to enter the religion. Okay, but all that we need to practice is be respectful, be kind to others, and although we have so many differences, but what we need to do is, be empathize, be empathy towards one another, and we need to regard others also have their own strength. We as well as has our own weaknesses. So be tolerate to each other is very important. That's how also Islam teaches us the basic principle of be respectful to one another. And I think Surah Al-Hujurat, all right, provide insightful for us, to understand that the stand of the religion, the creation of the mankind, all mankind is created equally in the sight of Allah. And we need to we need to be respectful of others, and the most significant person in front of God is those who have taqwa. God conscious is very important. So taqwa, in order for us to be taqwa, we need to practice respectful. Okay, we need to understand others, be tolerant, and we need to create a harmonious society with one another. Right? Okay.
Thank you so much, Doctor, once again for your insightful sharing and this question answer also. So now we'd like to move into our next session. Oh, Brother Sadab, do you have any questions to Doctor? If you have, or no? Okay, no problem. So dear brothers and sisters, we already shared the attendance form on the chat box. Please go through the link and fill your attendance over there. So now we will move to our second speaker. Our second speaker is Brother Khan Muhammad Sadab. So before inviting him, I would like to say something about Brother Khan Muhammad Sadab. Brother Sadab has a strong education professional and researcher with a Master of Science focused on information technology from the Institute of Management Studies, Tehran, and now pursuing his PhD in international information technology, the KICT, Kuli of KICT. The topic is IT-based intervention for children with ASD. And he's also a proud member of Postgraduate Student Society. We are really happy to have him with us today. So Brother Sadab, please welcome, and the floor is yours. Your time is 20 minutes for your speech and 5 to 7 minutes for the Q&A session. Please unmute yourself, brother. Thank you.
So you can see the presentation?
Yes, we can see.
And the notes is also visible, or
No, notes is not visible, only presentation. You can proceed.
All right. So I'm here with you all. Okay. Just okay. Okay. نحمده ونصلي على رسول الكريم أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Thank you everyone for joining in. With my humble experience and whatever Brother Alamgir has introduced me to you, I'll try my best as a student member to present to you. First of all, as for my introduction, which has already been given by Brother Alamgir, I am Muhammad Shadab Khan, and I'm a PhD student from Kulia of ICT, and also a member of PGSS, contributing with the academic and research division as an assistant member. So that's my contribution to PGSS. I'll try and keep my talk or experiences very short, which is because of the time duration. Just to embrace and to open myself. That's how I have learned to adapt and to learn from others. So let you know more about me. I am an Indian national. I have been studying in IIUM since 2018. I have been exposed to a few cultures during my student life, because you all know that India is a very diverse country. Starting from my childhood days with the Christian missionary schools, and moving on to the city which I dearly love, Aligarh, which is the home to Aligarh Muslim University, and then for higher education in the Northern Hills. So that was my initial journey. And in 2014, I went to UK for a brief period for my PhD, which unfortunately I have to withdraw because of withdraw my candidature because of some of the family consequences. So I had to restart over here in IIUM. In any ways, I have been working prior to my PhD studies in India, Saudi Arabia, and Malaysia as a tutor, obviously. I have not been teaching as a full-time teacher, but I have been a tutor here. And I love traveling, yes, traveled a fair number of countries in the European region, Middle Eastern region, South African region, and now exploring the flavor of East Asia, unfortunately, until COVID started. So because of the COVID, I'm more restricted to IIUM campus itself. So now coming back to what we are here to talk about, the intercultural engagement and its role in the well-being of postgraduate students, which is a very integral context. So what is intercultural communication is? We must be puzzled out at what we are talking about here. So first of all, like my previous speaker, respected doctor, was explaining, and I might overlap over many of things that Professor Dr. Nurul Ain binti Muhammad Dawood was giving insights on. So I still try to make it more relevant towards my context as a student. So intercultural communication is a symbolic, interpretive, transactional, and contextual process. So these are the main core areas which we need to work on it. And then here it says that process in which people from different culture create shared meanings. So it's more about the feeling to be understood and accepted is a key component of trust in the student to student or student to teacher relationship in the primary higher education setting. And it is very much associated to the student satisfaction. Now you can call it a PG student satisfaction or a UG student satisfaction. It's relevant to both contexts, but here I'm speaking in favor of in like for the PG students. So just keep that context to the PG students. So that relevance when I'm maintaining here, it affects the communication behavior when different cultures interact together. So now we are starting to have the intercommunication. So, and then the Baker et al. In 2003, it's a very standard communication writing. It says, or we can say that intercultural communication unfolds symbolic intercultural spaces. And these are moments where communication exchange is affected by cultural difference. So it is expected that there will be a gap. It is expected that there will be a difference. How we are going to fulfill or how we are going to fill that gap. And it's a very famous quote from one of my favorite, Nelson Mandela, because who drew me to South Africa and I went to explore that country. He says that if you talk to a man in a language he understands, that goes to his head. But if you talk to him in a language, if you talk to him in his language, that goes to his heart. So there's a very subtle difference of how you're going to approach a person while communicating. They are very, it's just you can see that it's a matter of understanding and it's a matter of sinking into a person. Anyways, so likewise, Professor Dr. Nurul Ain Binti Muhammad was talking about the Malaysian context. And here we have the Malaysian context. It comprises of multiracial, multicultural communities. We belong to IIUM. We have far more communities and far more races out here. Like, if I'm not, last time I remember that there were like 176 countries which have been representing in IIUM. And God knows how many students from each of those countries are there. Every now and then I'm just being surprised. So I'm restricting it to Malaysia, and we talk about Malaysian context because we are going to interact with the community here and beyond our borders. So in Malaysia, the most like these communities are there, like Malays from the majority, it's like 76.4%. Then we are followed with the Chinese community, which is 24.6%. And then the Indian community, it's 77.3%. And these are the statistics which I have been collecting from the Department of Statistics Report 2018. So what here we can get with now when we talk about, and previous speaker madam was also talking about the globalization. So with the increased impact of globalization on the multiracial and the multicultural, multilingual and multi-religious society like ours in Malaysia, we need to function effectively in our own culture as well as that for others. In multicultural university setting like IIUM, a large amount of communication and interaction takes place between educators from various ethnic backgrounds. So now we are not representing the PG students, but we are representing the educators also. And they are also from a wide background. And we have we have lecturers, professors from different universities. So what we need to do, creating a culture compatible communication platform that rejects ethnic, racial, religious, and gender discrimination, which the previous speaker already highlighted on, and promotes equality, the aim of all multicultural research. So this was reported by many documents throughout the search or literature, if you can say. Higher education institutions need to develop understanding and recognize their educators' cultural ethnocentrism and other biases before they form judgments. So this is a very prominent barrier when we talk about intercultural communication, that is ethnocentrism. Let me move on and let's see what a generic overview of researchers is there over the spectrum of research in certain areas. So the researchers have an opinion that an effective intercultural approach to communication takes over a receiver-centered view, like the person who is at the center of the communication, he has or she has to be, like that receiver has to be centered there. And then the various aspects of receiver-centered view have been highlighted. One of the important is Nuan in 1991 believed that an intercultural approach should take into consideration the attitude of the receiver and preferred nature of the communication. So these things which form the experiences or the researchic derivations from the articles. The intercultural communication competencies require remaining flexible, adapting to suit the needs of the individual. Now, when we talk about the receiver, we have to take care about how he and she could have been taken care of. So an effective intercultural approach helps communicators to create a tolerant, respectful, and comfortable environment. So there is an enough space for the person to present his or her own ideas. And such an approach is a spin-off of a very famous theory of communication accommodation theory, which was proposed by Giles and Pausland in 1997, where one tries to match one's verbal and non-verbal communication to suit a listener. So what we are trying to do, we are trying to imitate, we are trying to copy, and we are trying to create such an environment where the speaker or where the listener is more comfortable. Now, there can be different approaches like linear and direct communication, indirect and contextual communication, and indirect and ambiguous style. Each has its own strength and limitations. Now, this can be classified into various contexts. Like if you say Europeans have certain kind, Middle Eastern people have a certain kind. They talk in context. They have a contextual communication style, and then we have the East Asians, and in this region we have a different style altogether. I'm not going into details and classifications, but just giving you an overview that what things are there. Some other articles which have been like highlighting the points. It says growing international student population enhances university campuses by contributing to a diversified community and providing exposure to new cultural perspectives. Similarly, there is student staff engagement is also talked about. Consistent intercultural interaction is talked about. And these are all some extracts from researches which have been done in the recent history. This was a very interesting part, and I have highlighted the end of it, which hits the nail. It says international students want to be personally, academically successful, no matter from where they are from. However, when the student lacks confidence in their communication skills, or when they experience negative interaction within the host culture, they may be unwilling to seek guidance when they need it. And it is very relevant to our postgraduate community in and around this scope where we are now. So now we talk about the barriers. We are talking about some problems which we have and which we need to address to work out. It's not about confrontation, because if suppose some person is giving up an opinion of she's highlighting a problem, that person should not be confronted to the core that he stops communicating at all. And that's what we have been coming around. So the problem comes is how to remove barriers. So likewise, we need to identify what are the barriers first. So the most important barriers, which I already highlighted, was the ethnocentrism. That's one biggest barrier which we talk about. Second barrier, which is related to communication, is intercultural communication apprehension. And when these both are combined together, they lead to an anxiety. So if I would say summarize ethnocentrism in very few words, I would say that it can be said to as any intercultural interaction will be influenced by an individual or individual's ethnocentrism, or the belief that one's culture in group is superior to another culture or group. And that's where the Islamic values plug in, where we already said, and it's been quoted in the hadith and in the Quranic lessons, that no man is different. We are all the same. And Professor already quoted one of the ayahs from the surah. So that was one thing. And then it says that all humans are some extent ethnocentric, irrespective of who we are, failing somewhere on the scale of between low to high. So we have to identify that we are on a low scale of ethnocentrism or on a high scale of ethnocentrism, depending upon the circumstances. And this have been reported by one of the recent studies in the US. Now, when we move from ethnocentrism and we come towards intercultural communication and apprehension, it says that intercultural apprehension is the kind of a fear or anxiety associated with either real or anticipated communication with people from different groups, especially culturally or ethnic groups with different cultures and different ethnicity. So that's kind of a fear related to that, and that we call as intercultural communication apprehension. And lastly is the anxiety, which builds upon both of the ethnocentrism and intercultural communication apprehension. And it's the communication obstacle. And we all know as students, me, myself, I have that fear sometimes that the language ability, because I'm not well versed with the local language. And when there is a communication, I feel more, what you say, boxed or a bit aloof or left out. So that can lead to some kind of sometimes as an difference in expression of emotions, difference in verbal and non-verbal communication styles. So these are all very important aspects. So let me get you out of this theoretical and research based and jargon words of communication. And let's talk about how we as students are. So now you come back to the colors and the happy faces of the Ummatik festival. The question comes to all fellow listeners is, when was the last time you went out for a traditional Malay, Chinese, or an Indian meal? Then got items from an ethnic aisle of a supermarket. You wore a baju kurung or a baju batik because you're here in Malaysia and you have to be immersed with the society or watch a foreign film. These lead to what as your motivators, which will break down the barriers. These are integrative motivators, identifying with an ideal social group or a worldview. Instrumental motivators, which is self-development and knowledge accumulation, which is our duty as students and as students of Islamic University, International University, Malaysia. And then mundane motivations, such as convenience and entertainment, which I talked about in music or movies or serials or anything which we put the community together with less stress. So this is the theme back to the IUM Ummatik scope. These are certain pictures from our past events And what it does, it brings me closer to those countries which I haven't been before. They have, after this participation of certain events, what was the feel which was left with? It was academic engagement and it was social engagement. You cannot have academic engagement on one half and you can leave the social half. So as an individual, likewise, I said to earlier in my talk, in my message, that we need to develop the trust among the students and faculty and other administrative people also. So coming back to the highlights of one of the last meetings which have been attending with one of the professors, he retired, Dr. Ansari was talking about the basic tenets of Islam. And this particular slide I have summarized from his talk, rather adapted from his talk, adopted from his talk. It says Ukhwa, that's the first tenet. Khalifa, that's the second one. Amana, that's the third one. Muttahid, that is the fourth one. And fifth is the Ummatan Wasatan. So we all are well aware of the scope, and we are the Khalifa of this garden of knowledge, and we have to lead towards a society which can be well represented in the future. We have to undermine the indifferences among within students and within the staff. And with that, I would say that I would put the quote from our messenger, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, that Allah's Messenger ﷺ said that all sons of Adam are sinners, but the best sinner are those who repent often. And it is reported in Tirmidhi. With that, I will conclude my words. Thank you very much for listening to me. Anything bad or anything misinformed is by me. Anything good which is said by me, it's from Allah. And I bear witness that Prophet Muhammad is last messenger. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you very much, Brother Muhammad Sadab Khan, for your insightful sharing. I think it was a complete sharing regarding this topic. So thank you very much once again. So now I would like to move for the Q&A session for Brother Sadab. So dear brothers and sisters, if you have any questions related to this topic, so if you want to ask any question to Brother Sadab, please unmute yourself and ask directly to Brother Sadab. Please speak up, because it's an experience you will get, and it will help us actually in later on also. What Professor Dr. Noor Ain Binti Muhammad in her speech, he also she was trying to address those things. Please, dear brothers and sisters, it's an exercise you can just.
Brother Alamgir, I am reading a question in the chat box.
Yeah, I also saw that one. I was actually expecting questions from someone who just unmute yourself. Okay. If there is no, maybe we can read out that one in the meantime.
Okay. By the time I'm reading that question, it's looked like a descriptive question. I need to go through it.
Okay. Do I need to read out, or you just go through the questions?
By the time we are waiting, I'll read out the question.
Okay, you just read out, and no problem. If you already read out, just you can answer the questions too. No problem.
And I hope I did not overshoot the 20-minute time.
And it's okay. It's like, yeah, you already like 4 minutes is okay. No problem. So dear brothers and sisters, while reading this one, if you have any questions, because we don't have much time, maybe we can take on questions or max 2. So from you, and we are encouraging, like, we can unmute yourself and ask whatever you want. Okay, I think no problem. Due to time constraint, we can go through only that questions. Brothers.
Okay, so walaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi, Sister Anisa, Daila Lukman. As you say that you have given your introduction, and the crux part you talk about is the how to adapt well in an environment when you are a shy and less confident person. That is like that's your perception that people won't welcome you. So yes, I accept your, or like accept your opinion that you are a shy person and you want to interact, or any person who is shy and they want to interact, how to enhance our interpersonal communication with with the supervisors and lecturers with different language and culture. It's more about you, like, obviously the COVID circumstances have given us the barrier that we have to be virtual. That's one uh, biggest drawback which I can see, because once you come across an individual interpersonally, like face to face, or within the proximity where you can see that body language or eye contact of that person, it eases off the 50% stress. That's my practice myself, that when I used to teach students, when I had a face-to-face interaction, it has a amazing impact on their personality and my personality, rather than moving on to the virtual. So I hope this thing will end up and you can build on. And likewise, you asked that how you can start with your develop that kind of an interactive session with your supervisors and fellow students from different countries. It's no matter how what you say, secluded or closed you are, there can be ways, like people write poetry, people like blogs. Those who are not socially active, they immerse into writing. They go on a public sphere and they listen to the audio podcasts and stuff like that. So I guess that those things will be helpful to you, inshallah. I hope you answer your question, please.
Thank you very much, Muhammad Sadab Khan, and I thank you so much, Sister Anisa, for your questions. I believe you already got your answers. So I think due to time constraint, we won't take any question for Brother Sadab. Maybe if you have any questions, so later on, once our two other speakers they finish their talk, maybe we can, if you have any question, maybe we can just address your question.
Thank you, Brother Alamgir, for your time, and I am happy to share my ideas. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you very much once again, Dr. Sadaf Hussain, would be doctor inshallah very soon. So let's proceed with our third speaker, Honorable Associate Professor Dr. Abbas Abdul Razak. Okay, before inviting him, let me introduce him in briefly. He's currently an assistant professor, fully of Islamic revealed knowledge and human sciences, IIM Gomba campus. Muhammad Abbas Abdul Razak obtained his honors from University Ar-Rahini, Aceh, Indonesia, in Islamic education. Upon completing his undergraduate studies, Dr. Abbas returned to Malaysia in January 1992 and was teaching for a little while in the northern region of the peninsula of Malaysia before he went on to pursue his postgraduate studies at IIM. After completing his PhD in 2011, Dr. Abbas was appointed as an assistant professor at the Department of Fundamental and Interdisciplinary Studies, KIRKH in Kulia. He teaches all the university's required courses, such as Islamic worldview, knowledge and civilization in Islam, ethics and fiqh for everyday life and creative thinking and problem solving. At times, he also teaches psychology and parenting and family management in the university. In addition to teaching, Dr. Abbas also actively participates in many international conferences and research workshops on psychology, spirituality, globalization, and Iqbaliyat. His research work has published quite a number of journal and newspaper articles locally and internationally. As a social contribution, Dr. Abbas joined the National Blood Bank in 1998 as a member, and ever since then actively donated whole blood, plasma, and platelets. As of September 2021, he has donated 345 times. Mashallah, it's great. He strongly believes that through the philosophy of sharing, caring, and loving, humanity can create a better world. It's an impressive CV, Doctor, and I would like to invite you for your speech. Please welcome. Doctor, we can see the slide.
I know, but the other thing is blocking my, I don't know how to adjust that. It is blocking my view of the slides. Okay then. I will start, yeah. Allow me to start?
Yeah, sure.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul 'uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. Rabbi yassir wa la tu'assir bi tamim khair wa fawwid amri ila Allah inna Allah basirun bil ibad. Assalamu alaikum to all of you. Dear brother moderator, brother Alamgir, and our co-presenters, Dr. Nurul Ain, Muhammad Shaddab, and also brother Muhammad Amir, right? And all those who are participating today, I welcome you for a short presentation on my perspective. I was a student. I'm talking from my perspective, traveling around to a few countries, and my experience as an undergraduate student and later as a PhD candidate, master's and PhD candidate, right? So as a motto, right, as a muqaddimah, right, I would like to bring back the same famous, oft repeated and quoted, words when you talk about interfaith dialogue or, racial harmony and, how to remove racism and all that. These words come to play all the time. We project these words from Surah Al-Hujurat, verse 13, wherever we go. And it has been presented at the international level also. All these during interfaith dialogue, they highlight this. Today, I will just go to the other words that I like to highlight because Dr. Nurul Ain has, given us some sort of a, understanding, very clear and understanding and in-depth understanding. How should we understand these words and what sort of attitude that we should have, already given it. So the next slide is the translation, right? Perhaps I read the translation, right? The translation says here, O mankind, we have created you from a single pair of male and female and made you into nations and tribes, that you may know each other, not that you may despise each other. Verily, the most honored of you in the sight of Allah is he who is the most righteous of you, right? In addition to that verse, I'd like to quote another verse from Surah Al-Rum, can be very, very related, to the discussion that is taking place this morning. And the verse reads, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ خَلْقُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَاخْتِلَافُ أَلْسِنَتِكُمْ وَأَلْوَانِكُمْ إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَاتٍ لِلْعَالَمِينَ. Amilin, right? So the translation says, and among his signs is the creation of the heaven and the earth and the diversity of your languages and color. Indeed, in that are signs for those of knowledge. Now we're talking about, I would like to highlight certain things which has been spoken by other speakers, which is about our unique culture in IIUM, right? When you compare IIUM with other universities in Malaysia, perhaps I would bravely say, with full conviction, I can say, we are the first to come up with such models, taking a lot of international students, and mixing with the local students and all that, right? And in the latest, roughly, I think there are about, I checked with the department, a certain department, and found out that now we have at the present, the statistics shows that we have about 100 students from 130 countries around the world. They are of diverse ethnic backgrounds and speak different tongues. The vast majority of them believe in one God and hold Islam as their faith. But the last point is that, I, as a teacher here, as a lecturer, you have came across in my class without realizing some people, they are non-Muslims and they are sitting there and learning about Islamic worldview, Islamic ethics and all that. And after a certain time, I just come to know that they are non-Muslim because of the name, because of different culture, from different background and all that. In Malaysia, perhaps it's very easy to find out whether you're Muslim or not. They have the bin and the binti and all that. And anything strange we can ask around, we can find out, right? So that's a long story how I came up. I have taught students from, who are Chinese and Hindus and Punjabis and Christian and many different background, because I used to teach some courses on a part-time basis, The government departments would send them here, and from the Ministry of Education, we have to teach them, our courses and prepare them, for them to get a degree, right? So that is my experience here that I've taught to people of different faith. And then besides that, I've also taught students, at the international schools. Many schools I've taught, and Koreans, Arabs, Africans, and Pakistanis from India and all that. So how do I, get along with all that? Working there has enriched me a lot, right? And one of the things that I found out that always disturbs us, Brother Muhammad Shaddam he used ethnocentrism, but I would like to use a different terminology explaining about the same thing. It's a national ego, right? What is national ego is all about? National ego is about you are feeling great about your country. You should feel. There is nothing wrong, but it's not haram at all. You should feel. Even your country is a tiny dot on the map. You should feel great because that's where you originate from, right? So you are born there and you grew up in this, with all this local, cultural thing, heritage of your ancestors and all that. It is ingrained in your DNA, in your psyche already, right? So you might love your language, that's very natural, your food, your culture and your handicraft and all these fine arts things and all that you might love, But from the Islamic perspective, it is nothing wrong about it, right? In Islam, every Muslim, regardless regardless, from which background he's coming from or race group, right? He has the right to love it. He has the right to feel that way. But the only thing is that, you cannot take that love to the extreme level to say that my culture is superior than your culture. My race is superior than you. That's where, we cross the border, we will enter the zone or region of this haram already. You cannot feel like that. You're feeling asobia to the extreme level, right? But to feel that my culture, my food, my traditional clothes, the dress and all that is so nice, so beautiful and all that, it's okay, right? But at the same time, we have to see other people also and respect their culture, and then don't look down on others. This is what the national ego. So when we travel, we carry this feeling with us, and we start to condemn other people, and we start to say, label other people and say, what is this system here? Now, personal experience, when I traveled first time out of the country, I traveled to a country which is very difficult back then, but now the country is doing very well, far more better than Malaysia. over there, the system was very, very slow. Immigration was a big problem, right? So when I went there, I feel, it's a very difficult country that, I cannot survive. After 1 month, too much time wasted on immigration, getting the papers done and all that, and the visas and all that. So the people, the authorities were very, very, very strict, and they are, they don't give you any freedom. And then all the time they were taking money from you for no reason. They will ask you to fill the form and ask money. They were troubling me, right? But at the same time, when I look at the people, the local people, they have warmed my heart. I fell in love with all of them, right? So, philosophically speaking, right? I love the people and the culture, right? So I try to learn something from them. In the beginning, my friend and myself, we like to isolate ourselves, so we stick around ourselves, our countrymen, right? And we speak our language and all that. And then it's not going to work because you are going to stay for very long. So I spent quite a lot of time there, to be exact, I was there for almost 5.5 years. I don't know where the slide is. So I was there for 5.5 years, right? So I thought to myself, if I'm going to do this, I will suffer. I won't enjoy my stay, right? And there will be a psychological barrier. So what I did was that, I tried to, immerse myself, right? I went together with the people, tried to understand them, their culture. And one of the things that I learned, from the officers there at the immigration, when I said, why are you doing things very difficult? It can be done this way. He bluntly said to me, right on my face, he said, if you are here, you are here. If you are there, you are there. Don't bring your culture to my country, yeah? You came to my country. So I learned a lesson. Ever since then, when I go to the immigration or any government department, no complaint. He says, sit, I'll sit. Come here, I'll go. I said, okay, go and get this thing stamped and all that. I go up and down until everything is done. I just put my smile, I go, right? So because of difficulties, I never traveled back to my country for 5.5 years. I choose to stay there, do or die philosophy, right? But at the end, of that 5.5 years staying, right, it enriched me a lot. It has taught me a lot, how to get along with people. Don't criticize for no reason. Keep it yourself, You must have the hikmah to say things, Don't think that you are coming from certain country, your country is great, better, or you have a system better than their country. Don't say you are going to create more problems to yourself, right? So I have traveled. When I was, invited as a speaker to a certain country, right? I went there this is some part of the Middle East, right? So I was, the immigration treated me very badly, right? But I was invited, the people who want to take me to the venue and to the hotel and all, they're all waiting the other side. And here the immigration, he has to do his job, right? So he made me wait for 3 hours for no reason until one man came, I asked, why did you delay a lot? Because I'm very tired already. He said, only thing, he's the only officer who can speak English. So it's very simple. How then you just stop and let me go? But they don't know. They're suspicious about certain clause, sentence that they couldn't understand. They waited and all that, right? So that was my experience, right? But the people were very, very, very nice, yeah? They treated me, there was a bodyguard, there was a driver, there was a secretary, everything. I was treated like an ambassador, yeah? A diplomat. I said, I don't deserve this. I am a very simple man, I said that, right? No, we call you professor. I'm not even a professor, I said. We call you for your knowledge. Yeah? We acknowledge you. You are great. They took me around. So I went to a few countries there. I experienced. So every country, when you go, authorities can be a problem. So here, those who are listening to me, those who are coming from different part of the Muslim world, right? You have to, listen to me and take it, easy with them. Go easy with them. Don't let this thing disturb your mind, right? But in IIUM, you are very, you are lucky there is a division that deals with visa and all that. In my case, I have to go personally and deal with them, right? No help from the university, right? So that has taught me hard lessons, yeah, how to survive, right? So the food can be different also, language can be different, right? I faced many problems from the local authorities. People are good and showed good hospitality. That was my experience, right? Now, when you travel, brothers and sisters, yeah, fellow presenters, yeah, right? I have a philosophy of my own. I always say, say to my students, because the subject that I teach, brings students from different kulias, yeah, and they are from engineering, architecture, from economics, and many other departments and faculties, right? So after listening to them from different countries and all that, I always let them talk. They always complain, Malaysia is this and all that. I say every country, and I say to them, right? If you fail to train your eyes to see beauty, you are never going to see beauty in the world. No country is a perfect country, but all people and countries are beautiful and special in certain ways. So let us celebrate our differences, right? Unity within diversity. There's another thing I teach them, right? So your country can be great in certain ways, but this country can be. Now, one of the things that I like to promote here is that I always told these Malaysians, right? What is your selling point? Yeah. If you want to go internationally, making a presentation, you tell the people, tell the world, there is no terrorism here. Yeah. People are not unruly. They listen to the authorities. Those things are not right. They go and they vote and they show which government they want to choose. They are very, very, they follow law-abiding citizens. They have the highest level of patience compared to many in the world, right? So they are prepared to follow what the policemen have to say, what the immigration have to say, right? They go, they follow that, right? So, and then moderation, right? Another beautiful thing here. So these are things that you can promote. And when you see them in the, as a lecturer, I listen to them, and they're very shy people. They don't speak up in public, so vocally or critically, right? But when they write examination answers, right, they write very long. Compared to many others, I'm so surprised. How come? I say, how come your answer is very long, right? So they have been trained during, this is about the colonial period, right? When the British came, they have been, emphasizing on these schools, memorization, all they memorize all the time, right? So that part is very good, right? So I also asked them, my fellow Malaysians here, I said that when you look at foreign students, don't criticize them. They can speak loud. Sometimes they will speak very loud, right? They have different culture and all that, right? So don't try to impose your culture on them. But look at it, from an Islamic perspective, they are different because the features are different, the language is different, the food they like is different and all that, right? Another experience, very important experience that you should, I would like to share here is that, while I was doing my master's, there was a student coming from Africa, right? And he was sharing a room, we were sharing a room, and we were staying at the Gombak Batu Sebelas. And my department education was nearby then, long time ago, right? So, and he was staying with me, and for 1 month, I realized that he's eating very little, he's becoming very thin, and then he doesn't talk so much, he looked very sad. While I can just go and have food, and then he is, I always call him and say, it's okay, you go, and then he doesn't want to follow, right? And one day I asked him, what is bothering you, please? Am I a problem to you or what? I can leave the room for you. I can go and find another place to stay. I said, no, brother Abbas, you are not a problem to me. Then he opened up himself, I cannot find my food to eat here. I said, what is your food? I said, our staple food is banana. I said, how come banana is a staple food? They say, we cook, we stew, we can fry, we can do so many things with bananas. There are 35 different recipes out there. So sometimes he say our breakfast is 2 big, long bananas, right? With the yogurt drink is done already, right? Oh, I don't know. I said to him, brother, I'm very sorry. Why don't you tell me early on? Then I went to Chowkit and brought him bananas. I saw his eyes grew very big and he was very happy. Ever since then, okay, when I go to town, I'll get you bananas, right? Then that was finished already. He finished. And then one day we met again. We went separate ways, right? During our research, the final thing that we have to do, writing dissertation, we went separate ways. And then he completed, he was submitting his research, I'm submitting. And I met him at the cafeteria. So surprisingly, I saw that he was eating nasi lemak with a lot of chili and a big glass of teh tarik. I said, brother, what happened to you? You cannot take this chili, always you complain. I said, no, I love this food, he said. And then when he has completed, after that, I realized he was married to a local already. So he's more or less like a Malaysian, right? So in the beginning, he complained, this food is very hot, I cannot take, and this and that. But he is more than a Malaysian after that, right? So adaptation is very important, right? Next slide will be a philosophy of adopt, adapt, and assimilate, right? So when you go around, you see different culture and all that. I learn a lot from Europeans also, right? From Americans also. The way they talk, they are very good listeners, while we are not, right? We like to interject all the time, right? So I learned that culture from them. Listen carefully before you speak, right? And then the reading habits, doing research, this is the science and technology and all that. This is the part that, attracted even Allama Muhammad Iqbal. He liked from the West this quality, right? So I said, this is the good part that we can learn. Now, what we can share with them is that our Eastern culture, right? Our extended family concept, and also spirituality, right? Because they have left God and all that, we can introduce them to God, So every country has something special to offer, right? So you have to find out what is so special about your country, about your culture, right? And we should not feel inferior, right? To our what we have with us, right? And then so we can integrate things, right? So this one here, this last point here, the global community present on campus provide a good opportunity for us to adapt, and assimilate dynamism found in many parts of the world, right? So if you look at an African brother, right, his power of memory, right, memorization impressed me a lot. I always tell these locals, look at them, they can sit for very long hours. And one of the thing that I've experienced with my African friends is that they are hardworking people. They can finish fast PhD. When they come to PhD, they are the first to finish because they are from another country. And every a month they are here. Every year they are here. They're spending a lot of money, so they are very diligent to finish, eager to finish fast, and they go, right. So if you look at the Malay community here, Malaysian community, you can learn something from them, right? So those are coming from India, from other countries, there is something special that you and me have to explore, right? So have an open mind to explore, right? So my students ask me, sir, you are defending everybody. Actually, who you are? So this is a dilemma now. Every time at the beginning of the semester, they always ask me this question. Sir, you speak this language, you speak that language, we really don't know where you come from, right? I said, why you bother to ask me where I come from? Accept me for what I am. Then finally, I say, I have to stop this thing. So I wrote something here for my students, and I call this write-up of myself, the universal man. I would like to read out very quickly, right? I hope I have the time, right? The universal man. Philosophically speaking, the whole world belongs to me and I belong to the whole world. All countries are my country. For this reason, I call myself the citizen of the world. If humanity can be analogically described like the colors of the rainbow, then I'm just a color in the whole spectrum, nothing more and nothing less. I'm just a drop in the ocean of people. All good citizens of the world are my brothers. In my faith, I'm a Muslim. In my generosity, I'm an Arab. In my taste for food, I'm an Indian. In my spirit of togetherness with others, I'm a Malaysian. In my common courtesy, I'm a Malay. In my work ethic, I'm a Japanese. In my adoration towards nature, I'm a European. All in all, I'm a universal man, one who believes in the spirit of loving, caring, and sharing. A man who stands for world peace and aspires to create a better world. That's me. Right? So another slide and two more quotes, my famous quotes, because I teach one subject on the Islam knowledge and civilization. So when I look at the civilization, every civilization, learns one civilization learned from another civilization. And Islamic civilization has learned from previous civilization, earlier civilization like the Indian civilization, Persian civilization, and the Greek civilization also. So what they have learned, is all the dynamism, the good part of it, which did not contradict with the Islamic concept, right? So the same thing, the formula is to adopt, adapt, and assimilate. When you do that, you increase your knowledge. Your personality become more beautiful, right? Rather than you just, you are just in your enclavement, right? And say that I don't want to mix with this. You are in your own cave, right? Come out from there. The world is so beautiful, right? Why do you restrict? The natural world has to offer you a lot, but why do you deprive yourself, So learning is just not from books and, in a classroom setting, right? In the natural world, has to offer a lot, right? So, and many of the scholars, Muslim scholars, they say, Taz and Muhammad Iqbal, they say, the Quran is the book of revelation. It's a revealed book, while the universe is the open book of Allah. So go out and explore nature and you see. So in line with that, when you talk about civilization, clash of civilizations bring disharmony. Coexistence of civilization inspires us to see beauty and acceptance of one another. And the final quote will be humanity, right? So when I look at people, different colors, culture, language, traditional foods and all that, it came to my mind, and then I wrote this quote. I read for you, right? What makes the rainbow beautiful and interesting are the different shades of colors. What makes humanity interesting is the variation of our race, color, language, culture, etc. So why fight and kill one another? Now, this slide is meant for the international community, right? We are not, talking with the Muslim. I have posted somewhere, I use this also in my writing also. So with that, I like to end here my short presentation. I would like to thank the organizers, and also I don't want to fail to thank Sister Damia, who has extended the invitation to join this. With that, I leave it to the audience and to other speakers. If you have any questions, you can raise your questions. With that, I humbly end here by saying, wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you very much, Doctor, for your insightful sharing. I think it's one of the most comprehensive sharing. So especially the poet which one you wrote, like the universal man, that was awesome actually. Each of one word, like it was really good. If possible, you can share with us later on. Maybe we can also go through that one. And thank you. Yeah. Okay, now let's move into the Q&A session. Because we don't have much time, maybe we can take on questions from audience and maybe on questions from the chat box. So dear brothers and sisters, if you want to ask anything related to this topic, please unmute yourself and ask directly to the doctor.
Assalamu alaikum.
Brother Baldi.
Yes.
Okay,
my name is Baldi, and I am an IIUM student which is graduated not long time ago. I would like to, first of all, to thank you. You mentioned something really that I really appreciate. It's okay to love your culture, but at the same time, you need to embrace other culture as well. And my question is that I believe that communication is very important when it comes to cultural interaction. In your perspective, what is the roles of the communication? Because you mentioned just now, you and the African guy, the way you understood what he wants is because you communicate with him. So can you share with us the critical perspective of communication when it comes to cultural interaction?
Yeah. Thanks to the brother. Your name was Baldi, eh? Thank you, brother. Right. So in communication, always look for the common theme, a common topic that you can agree with one another. Don't choose a topic that you can dispute and you become sour over it, right? Especially when you choose politics or culture, you criticizing, the food culture or anything that it can be a little bit offensive, right? So you start with something common that you like, something universal, as a concern of the world population, or community, right? So war is happening, that is okay, right? So another thing is that, we all have our own shortcomings, So before you criticize other people, look at yourself, So you don't want to be criticized by others, right? So we don't have to criticize others. Right? So be nice. Another thing about communication, if you're in a foreign country, I'm telling you, isolation is not going to work. The more you isolate, you say, I cannot learn your language. You don't say the word, I cannot learn, or maybe your language is difficult, or don't give an excuse. Try a little bit harder, right? You don't have to speak perfect language, these people, the local people, right? The popular terms and terminologies, right? That can bring smile on their face, that is very important when you do communication. Assalamu alaikum, brother, how are you? Apa khabar? Sudah makan? You ask them, I say, wait, he speak my language. When you speak the language of the local people, the heart is open to you already, right? When the hearts are warm, it is very easy to get the message across. After that, you say anything also, you criticize also, he's okay with you already, because he has accepted you already. But you don't speak his language, you don't befriend him, You go to the cafeteria, what is this country, what is that? They get very, very annoyed with that, right? So that is the very important basic rule, right? You go anywhere, Arab country, or you go to Iran, or just stay for 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Slowly you will learn some of it. You just write it down sometime, memorize the thing, and then it becomes easy. But the moment you say, I don't like this language, you close the door, then you are not going to learn anymore, right? So be open, appreciate the beauty in people, right? The people are beautiful, I'm telling you, wherever you go. And people are ugly also sometimes, the bad people are everywhere. You see, when you ask me about America, I like, the way they talk and they explain, the common courtesy sometimes. For everything they say, thank you, thank you. I say, what is too much of it, right? And you little things, they say, sorry to you. But we are very late in these two. Saying thank you, we are very late. And sorry is also very late. And especially here in Malaysia, people are shy people. They assume that, you will understand. They won't understand you. You have to express it. And the love also, right? In the family members and all that, you love your children, you love your wife and all that, they don't say it out. Americans I like because they say it out, I love you, honey, right? But here they say, the language, the culture thing, right? They don't express in front of children and all that. You don't have to hug them or at least say that, but I really appreciate you have done a good job, today your dish is very fantastic, and that is better, right? So I think, communication, plays a very vital role, right? So, okay.
Okay, thank you, Doctor. I hope Brother Baldi got his answer and it was really comprehensive. So I think we got few questions for you, but due to time constraint, should I take it or not? Okay, I should take one. One of our brother, he asked, what are the obstacles to intercultural engagement in the context of postgraduate students in IUM, and how we can overcome these obstacles? I mean, just wants to know your views.
Thank you. I think, UIA as this platform for all of you. You say the Ummatic Week or Ummatic Month, right? Last time it was Ummatic Day, now become Ummatic Month. More activities have been added to that already, right? Besides that, they also have activities like they make Qurbani, Eid al-Adha, Eid al-Fitr, and for Ramadan, breaking of the fast. You must go and participate. And you get enroll in workshops, in seminars and all that. Don't sit with your own friends and group in during discussion. Go with the people and mix. You can have people from Arab country, from Indonesia, from Malaysia, from Brunei. Anyway, just sit down and listen. Because you have a common language to talk, right? So that won't be it's not difficult, right? So we have to look for opportunities how to get ourselves mingle. Now the thing is sometimes when people say people mix but they don't blend, right? That's the problem also, right? You see, what is mix? They say today this is event we organize for you, all come, right? When you go there, you're looking for Bangladeshi friend. My friend is there, okay, I must go with him already. The Malaysian, they will go one side. Don't do that, So to show the real spirit of being a Muslim, the Wahdatul Ummah, right? You have to blend, And that is not happening at the moment, sorry to say. I'm very idealistic person, right? So that is, we have to work hard on that area, right? How to get them involved. Next time, any organizer, right? Group, you going out of the campus and all that, make sure the mixing, you have to put this international student, it should reflect the international community, right? So that's what I think.
Thank you very much, Doctor. So hopefully, I think we all got the answer actually. So we need to be more, towards the international community to mix with them. So yeah, IUM, it's one of the best place for that one if you consider that one. What Brother Sadaf mentioned, we have already 170 countries students over there.
Subhanallah.
So mashallah, and it's a really great opportunity for us to mix with them and to get the insights from their countries, their cultures, and others too. So thank you once again, Doctor, for your insightful sharings and answers. So now we would like to move our fourth speaker, which will be the last speaker for today's session. So after this speaker, maybe if you have any question, dear brothers and sisters, maybe you can ask to our honorable speakers today, the four speakers, any of them, you can ask after that. So, okay. Before inviting our fourth speaker, let me introduce him with you in briefly. Our fourth speaker is Brother Muhammad Amir bin Rustam. He is a master's student of IRKH, International Islamic University of Malaysia. He is representing Malaysia. He's a local student here. And apart from study, he involved so many social welfare organizations such as Muslim Missionary Society, Friendship Group for Inter-Religious Service, Women's Federation for World Peace, IRKHS, Student Society, Global Community Club, and many more. So he's really versatile, and I had a conversation with him, and he's really, eagerly waiting to share his views with us. So without a further ado, I would like to invite Brother Muhammad Amir bin Rustam to share his, speech with us. Brother Muhammad Amir, you already shared the slides, but unfortunately, I didn't receive your slides. I just, refreshed so many times. So I believe you will able to share your own slides. Brother, you can continue.
All right. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First and foremost, thank you to our moderator, Mr. Brother Alamgir, for inviting me and to be moderated in this spectacular event. Actually, I feel quite honorable to be invited, one of the speakers, to be in this kind of session, and also I also feel like tiny because being staged in similar level with Professor Abbas, Dr. Ayn, and Brother Shadab, all are great people. So I try to share based on my really experience as a master student, and as well as I think I'm part of the youngest one, so not that many experience to that, and also a lot from our speakers previously. Okay, so I try to share my slide. All right, sorry. Are you able to see the slide?
Yes, brother.
All right, thank you very much, brother. So thank you very much again to our brothers. So I will try to make it short and simple as soon as possible. And I hope that there is no hard question for me. So on webinar, intercultural engagement and its role in the well-being of postgraduate students. So I'm a master candidate from Department of Usuluddin and Comparative Religion from Kuliah Islamic Living Knowledge and Human Sciences. And on my presentation, I would like to classify or categorize it into 5 parts, which is the first I would like to talk about definition of society. Second is Ibn Khaldun on society and culture. Third is Islamic perspective or Quranic view on intercultural. And the fourth is culture and religion. And the fifth of intercultural level among the postgraduate students. So I will go to my first part, which is when we talk about intercultural, we talk about culture. We must not run away from the concept of society, because society, I believe that each man, each one of us cannot live without having to interact with other people. No man can live in his loneliness, agree or not? Because man is ontologically or in nature is in dire or is in need of social interaction. Society, when we talk about society, is a development of, according to Auguste Comte, one of the sociologists, Western sociologists, it says society is a collective organism, a harmonious structure and function, working towards a common goal. And according to Spencer, society as politically organized entity, members arrange a permanent form to maintain equilibration. And meanwhile, for Max Weber, it says society is a concept complex of meaningful human interrelationship. And society, according to, it's actually, Ibn Khaldun said, we as a human being have the quality of to think and also the quality of constant effort, which is to think, which is distinguish us between animal and also human being. That is what that's what the true meaning of human being, which is we have the ability to think. Okay. The second part is I want to talk about Ibn Khaldun on society and culture. Ibn Khaldun views society as sui generis. What is sui generis? It means it's a reality. Society is a reality of representation, which expresses a wholly different content from purely individual one, meaning that a society stand firm far above of individual aspect. Okay, Ibn Khaldun is actually the first thinker to make society the subject matter of a new independent study. Example, he has a study of primary or secondary leadership. So I'm not going to talk more about sociology because I'm not from sociological department. But I want to talk about one of the features that form a society according to Ibn Khaldun, aside from the needs of having a leaders, necessity of welfare activities, the holiness, the cooperation, the territory, the belongingness of our Ibn Khaldun called al-Sabiyah, and one of it is the culture. So according to Ibn Khaldun, culture is a complex whole that includes all form of knowledge, belief, arts, laws, custom, and any other capability acquired by people as member of society. And he says also culture is a product form of human society. Culture did not happen haphazardly. It just not happen, we call it incidentally. It happened by process. Culture is actually a process, which is, for example, a cultural aspect for like returns, or we call it hikayat in Malay. For example, there are written evidence, there are written works that are handed over down, transmitted orally from generation to generation. So culture, according to Ibn Khaldun, is like a second nature. So culture is not just about, we call it art of work, but also, for example, culture is learned through an experience by a human being. I give an example for a boy when he saw his father wear a certain clothes to certain event. For example, maybe he went to the mosque. In our Malay culture, I have to be honest with myself. In our Malay culture, when I saw during my time, my young age, when I saw my father went to the mosque, to the masjid, he always wear a songkok or kopiah. Whenever he goes there, he always wear that. And whenever we enter the mosque and masjid, the pakcik, all the uncle or the imam and be like, wear songkok and kopiah. So as a boy or as a, we call a new person came into that place, we did not wear any songkok or kopiah. We feel like we are also being awkward. So there are times when we are trying to follow the culture, but eventually, of course, we will know songkok or kopiah is originally from we call it from India, if I'm not mistaken, from the songkok. Meanwhile, if you go to the Arab country, they are wear the turban. Meanwhile, you go to any other places, they are not. To Turkey or something, they have very big head cap to wear. So it's part of the culture. And as I can see also the Asian, and I work in, I'm also a working student. I work in one of the international multinational company. I work in Citibank, where the culture of Citibank is actually very international and very very multiracial. It's not deniable that I remember one of our managers said, in our one of the meeting, we have Chinese, we have Korean, we have Indian, we have Malay. During a meeting, when the manager asks a question, the Asian or the Asian people, when they have the question, they are not the one who the firstly to be taken up to answer. You get what I mean? But when it comes to other people, like from the US, from the Western, and maybe from the Middle East, they are so outspoken. And that's actually, if you look back, actually what caused that kind of action, or what caused that kind of attitude. It's actually the well-bring up of our nature. For example, I give you, let's say in our young age, our boy in Asia, I mean in Malay culture also, when we do something wrong in our action, as a boy, as a child, of course we're going to get blamed by our parents, correct? But when we are being blamed by the parents, we are being taught, or we are being disciplined by not looking at their eyes. For example, when we are being disciplined, we must look down, look at their face, and we cannot look at straight to the eyes. And meanwhile, if you watch the culture of Western community, Western people, they are treated when they are being scolded or being disciplined by their parents. Their parents ask them to look up, look at me in the eyes. If you notice, I believe if you go to any movies, I haven't been to a Western country yet, but I believe that is how the culture. So when this kind of differences, it create a lot of we call it bring up a well-being, because actually it's have pro and cons. For example, for Asian people, being a school and we always look down, it create a modest and humble, because not create humble characteristic of Asian people. But for Western, when they are, it will be create a lot more sun up or well confidence, which is a good thing also. But too much of too humble or too much of too well confident is not a really good thing as well, because as you can see in America, in a Western culture, when they are too confident or too extreme, they are tend to go to, we call it to make another movement. I take example of feminism in Western culture. Feminism is actually originally is a good cause. I believe is a good cause initially, because the cause of feminism is actually to emancipate, to liberate the woman from being oppressed by the patriarch group. But along the way, because women are being oppressed by the men, basically in Western people, they are not giving the right to work, they are not giving the right to live, to have rights and everything. But eventually, after their movement of feminism, eventually it developed into an extreme point of view, which is woman is equal as man in everything. So that's actually part of not a really good thing of culture. Meanwhile, for Asian, it also when we are too humble or too modest, we are actually being more like to be like we call it in Malay idiom we call it bagai kerbau dicucuk hidung, meaning that when like a cow is being is like I'm not sure what the correct word of cucuk, like a cow being pulled by its nose by a rope, something like that. So we are just follow what other people, and we Asian people always think Western people are great, they are so good, they are so superior. That's make us so humble. So that's an example lah. And the third point, what the last review about Quranic view on intercultural. Culture is actually, from my perspective, is pragmatic. It changes to times, need, and capabilities. For example, we have Dr. Ain also explained previously, and we have also our previous speaker also explained about how culture changes throughout our time. And we need to understand these changes actually is one of the, we need to adapt to avoid the culture shock. For example, I still remember when I introduced to the first interculture, because I'm from a Malay, typical Malay background. My father is a Malay, my mother is a Malay, and mostly a Malay. In Malaysia, if you are Malay, if you want to pursue in Islamic study, we'll go to Islamic school, we'll go to Islamic university, Islamic IPT. But the thing is, in Malaysia, even if you went to a public school, 99%, I can say, most of them are Malays and Muslim. And when go to the, I call it secondary school, 100%, especially if you go to Arabic or if you go to Islamic school, 100% of it are Muslim and Malay. And when you go to Islamic university, that is when my turning point, where I quite, to be honest, quite a bit culture shock as well, because in IIUM is very, we have a lot of various culture and various races of student. So when I entered Gombak, I am in Gombak, I saw a very interesting and also very intriguing culture. Is why, for example, the foods, we have a lot of food. I am very famous of food. In fact, in Malaysia, I think they have posted IIM is one of the best place to eat in Malaysia. And I am online, not in the website. So actually, we have a different. When I remember, I was exposed to interculture during the IIM is when the Ummatic Week, Ummatic Festival. Ummatic Festival is very it's very outstanding event. Like we can see all type of dances, we can see all type of languages, we can see all type of culture being presented to the community. But unfortunately, I feel so sad because during that kind of event, honestly speaking, I see a very few of our Malay colleague or Malay local people coming to that kind of event. They are more like tend to go to other event which feel are Malays, even thought the community also are Malays. So it's actually quite we call it quite shame for us. Okay, so the Quranic verse talk about, we have previous speaker also talk about the Surah Al-Hujurat, verse 14, verse 13. Ya ayuhan nas inna khalaqnakum min dhakarin wa untha wa ja'alnakum shu'uban wa qaba'ila lita'arafu inna akramakum innallaha atqakum, which is verily ya ayuhan nas, which all human being, inna khalaqnakum min dhakarin wa untha, which we have created you men and women, there's no intermediate, and wa ja'alnakum shu'uban wa qaba'ila, and we have created you races and tribes, people of tribes, so that you can know each other. Lita'arafu, that's the purpose. Of course, God can create us in one single community, in one single language, one single color. But that's the beauty of Allah's plan, which is we have a lot of various culture and various people. But the Quranic says, some of people say this Quranic also, God also create other religion, which is actually wrong because God did not mention any, he did not create any religion, he just create any culture and people and tribe. But religion, of course, is created by the man. And among this kind of people, in akramakum, regardless of what you are wearing, what your color from, what you are being from, and the best position among the righteous is those are the righteous in front of Allah. And intercultural is actually Islam, as in Quranic verses, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ in Surah Al-Anbiya. Islam brings Islam is a very shumul. It's very comprehensive religion. That's why if you go, that's why Islam can be considered as one of the fastest spread going religion. It can go to every part of the world. It can be accepted to every part of culture, nation, and people. Be a Malay, be a Chinese, be a Indian, be a Western, Japanese, and everything. So India above, but of course, Islam also a religion of justice. In the above verse, Allah does not address a Muslim or the Arab. He addressed all of mankind with all its different culture. Therefore, it's to be expected Islam can be easily embraced and integrated into different culture and exist in this world. So Islam does not support any ideas of culture and custom, because, of course, culture is actually something that is we call it al-ibaha, yani something that is not wajib or mandub, which actually is just if you do it, you don't get anything. If you don't do it, you also don't get anything. But it's also Islam also give a guideline to which is actually accept any culture does not transgress or does not support any does not clash with Islamic principle. That is what Islam teaches us. And when we talk about culture, my experience to culture is actually we have, for example, we have Malay culture. The Black Crow came to our house. That means something is someone is in that house is going to die. Seriously, there's going to die. So that is our old Malay culture. And also when we go to the forest, we go to the jungle to hiking or trekking, we see in the movies there are people try to ask permission from whom? Permission from the owner or from the entity of the forest. Which is actually this type of culture also is considered out of Islamic principle, because that's how when we talk about culture, this must also when we talk about interculture, we cannot run away. La Buddha wala shakka, we run away from the interreligious engagement, because some culture people consider as part of religion, and that is what we call assimilation or syncretism, for example. And that's why the emergence of new cult, new religion, new ideologies, and new movement is entra. And to cooperate with this issue, we have a clash of culture. For example, in culture of we call it. I went to a Buddhist temple previously during my study. A Buddhist with Mahayana group, one of the denomination in Buddhism. There is a call it a Buddhist figure of Buddhist statue. Each of the Buddhist statue held a different type of different type of finger pose. So this finger pose actually, when we look back, when I asked about the finger pose, it actually have a meaning. So, but when we go to other denomination like Theravada denomination, they doesn't have that kind of thing, because that kind of thing is already assimilated into the Chinese belief or culture. Same thing for we call it when you go to visit to Hindu temple. Previously, if you are not well experienced or well exposed to other religion, especially other religion talking on the internet, we would say that this culture of Hindu god, that's part of their culture. Actually, it's not part of their culture; it's part of their religion. Yeah, you know what I mean. So how do we handle this kind of issue? We go back. In fact, in Islam also we do have a clash of culture and religion. Some say this is part of religion and this is also part of our culture, but it's actually not. So we need to go back to the Quran and Hadith, which is Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam lan tadillu in ma tamassaktum bihima, which is Kitabullah wa Sunnatan Nabi. And last but not least, my fourth position is intercultural relevant among postgraduate students. It's actually it's very important for us, for progressive postgraduate students, to be involved in intercultural, because first is our mental well-being. Of course, we need other people to talk and interact. Second is our intellectual being. A difference must be made for those who are already a student who is well exposed or who well versed with other culture compared to who did not. It's actually they have a different side of perspective. They have a different kind of worldview. Third is social skill. We need it in social skill. And fourth is employability, well-being. Of course, when we are we are not going to work in the same group, in the same culture, in the same tribe. Of course, we are not. So a lot of, especially in COVID time, even though we are not meet face-to-face, there are companies open for international. So we are open also online, this kind of thing. So this kind of also things also quite relevant for postgraduate students. In conclusion, I'm sorry taking much time. Man is ontological in nature in dire for social interaction, which is we need to realize the diversity in languages, color, culture, etc. And culture is pragmatic, change to time, needs and capability, and we must adapt to it, like Professor Abbas said, adapt, adopt, to avoid a culture shock. And also culture also have the issue of issue related to interculture with racism, Sabia, etc., which is how to cope with this, which go back to the Quranic and Hadith, which is principle, one of the principle that one of the former rector of IIM, Prof. Tan Sri Kamal Hassan, said the concept of wasatiyah, which is the having of understand of justice, al-adalah, tawazun, the balance, and also al-khairiyah. And I also must say the relevance of intercultural and interreligious engagement among participants is very essential and important. So, but not least, I'd like to quote, just my own quote. So, civilities in differences embrace the harmony. Muttahidin naqif, mutafarriqin naskut. So, I guess that's all from me. Thank you very much. I'm sorry for taking so much time.
Thank you very much, Brother Muhammad Amir bin Rustam. Thanks for your, the sharings. It's like really insightful and comprehensive. So I would like to open the floor for Q&A session. So dear brothers and sisters, so if you have any questions related to this, please unmute yourself and ask directly to Brother Amir Rustam. Please, we are encouraging you to ask questions. Any type of questions. It's a practice, and as because we all are the postgraduate students here, and I think that will be a good practice. Okay.
So no more practice.
Yeah,
I'm glad no question.
Yeah. No, I already received few questions, but I was actually expecting.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, please go, brother.
Okay, no problem. Okay, brother. There is one question for you.
All right.
So, how might cultural differences impact one's ability to communicate clearly and effectively with others? How might? I think, did you get my point? Isn't it?
Sorry, can you please repeat? How
might cultural differences impact one's ability to communicate clearly and effectively with others?
Okay, how might okay, so basically it actually impact a lot, especially when we have a different of culture on its own. We need to understand about one of the culture. For example, I go to my point previously. If you want to talk with Malay or Malay student, especially in IIUM, not just IIUM, I think in Malaysia in general, we tended more like shy people. I have to be honest on that. We are very, very shy. But when people approach us, they're open to us, we tend to be friendly. That's the truth. Malay culture is not something we go directly, hey, what are you doing? Where are you from? How are you? We are not, that's not, Malay culture is, I guess most of them, we are not treated, we are not being taught to be like that, not our brothers from the country. But like I said, when we truly understand the difference of their culture, of their well-being, we can develop into our own communication. We can create a lot of more cooperative, a lot more understanding and mutual communication. We can just study about their culture, study about our own culture, so that we can know each other. So I think I hope it's not answering.
Thank you, brother. Thank you very much for your insightful sharing. So I would like to request, dear brothers and sisters, we are near to close our session. So before closing, if you have any questions to any of our panelists, any of our speakers, you just unmute yourself and ask through your, Is there any questions, dear brothers and sisters? I think if you don't have, maybe I have few questions, but I don't want to read out because time is really short. I received few questions through chat box also, I mean, personally. Okay, I think there is no. So, okay, I think we can end this session. We will move into our photography session right now. So in the photography session, I would like to request all of you, please open your, switch on your camera, and so that we can take the pictures. And I would like to request Sister Dami is here, if possible, please.
Okay, ready?
Look, I think no ready. I think few of us still didn't.
Okay. All right, I will take the first picture. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay, another one. Hold on, yeah. 1, 2, 3. Okay, done. Thank you.
Thank you very much. With the end of photography session, just now, it marks the end of our our today's webinar sessions. And before closing, I would like to thanks again all our beloved and respected speakers of our today's webinar. I think the session was really insightful and comprehensive. All our students who already joined with us, who already listened with us, I think they will be highly benefited. And as because this session is it's already been live streaming, and the session will be on our YouTube platform. And later on, I think there will be so many students. They will able to see these videos. So with that, I would like to end the session with Suratul Al-Asr and Tasbih al-Kifara.